Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started. I know there might be a few after-school stragglers. Thank you so much for joining us as we walk through the steps to MDI administration in schools for principals and teachers. Start with a couple of housekeeping slides. For those of you new to GoToWebinar, this is similar to what you'll be seeing on your end. If you'd like to hide this menu to give you a little bit more desktop space, you can click on that orange arrow. And we will pause throughout the webinar to take questions. The way that you can ask any questions that come up is by typing them into the question box, and we can respond throughout the webinar. Or if you'd like to be unmuted and ask your question live, we'd love to hear your voice. You can raise your hand and then we'll unmute you to answer your question. And you have a couple of audio options. If your speakers aren't working, you can always choose a phone call option, which will display a phone number to dial in. Great. So just to start off, we'd like to recognize that our work takes place on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. We are here at the UBC campus in Vancouver. This post is located centrally on the UBC campus by Musqueam artist Brent Sparrow Jr. Who's in the room right now? My name is Madison. I'm the MDI Implementation Manager, and I'll be doing a bit of an introduction here, and then I'll be handing it off to Merritt Gilbert, who's the MDI Implementation Lead. Many of you have probably been hearing from Merritt or emailing Merritt, and she'll be walking through the steps to MDI administration. Kim Mascarenas is typing and responding to questions online here. She and Merritt are the main contacts for any kind of support during MDI administration. And Sally McBride is our Knowledge to Action Manager. So after the steps to administration, she'll be sharing some ideas for catalyzing action with your MDI data. And who do we have out there? We have teachers and school administrators from across BC. We have 28 school districts participating this year across the province, as well as school districts from the Yukon and Northwest Territories, from Nova Scotia, from Ontario, and Manitoba. So welcome, everyone. This webinar will be recorded for a later viewing, or if you'd like to share it with your colleagues as well. So a quick overview of what we'll be going through. I just mentioned the three main pieces: an MDI overview, we'll talk about the steps to MDI administration, and some ideas for catalyzing actions. For those of you who are returning, a lot of this will be a refresher, but there are some new pieces, so we have this fun red icon to highlight what is new this year. First off, a little bit about us here at the Human Early Learning Partnership. Our vision is all children thriving in healthy societies, and our mission is we are dedicated to improving the health and well-being of children through interdisciplinary research and mobilizing knowledge. So we just want to acknowledge and thank you as school administrators, teachers, and thank your students for participating in this research, which is making a significant contribution to our understanding of how we can help children and families thrive. Many of you are probably familiar with our director, Dr. Kimberly Schoenert-Reichel. She is the Director of Health and an applied developmental psychologist and professor in education at UBC, and she began her career as a teacher in middle school and high school. We're so happy to work with Kim as she's internationally recognized as an expert in the area of social emotional learning research with children and adolescents, and she's the lead researcher of the MDI. So I'm just going to present a very brief overview of the MDI with some key messages for teachers, but if you're interested in hearing a more detailed webinar all about MDI research, some of the trends we're seeing in the data, and some great ideas of how to use that data in your classrooms, we have a recording from a back-to-school webinar available on the website on this link right on the slide. So why is the MDI important? It allows us to see trends in how children are doing over time and provides educators, parents, researchers, community organizations, and policymakers with critical information about the psychological and social worlds of children during middle childhood, which is a time period in which previously we didn't have a lot of information about what was happening in children's lives, which was the main reason why the MDI was developed. By reviewing and sharing MDI results, the opinions and concerns of children are validated, and decision makers are better prepared to move towards actions that create supportive environments where children can thrive. So the survey is for children in grade 4 and 7, and we often are asked why grade 4 and 7. These ages are particularly important to be able to prevent problems before they arise later in adolescence. This time between grade 4 and 7, ages 9 to 12, is the transitional period. There's in development where there is some increased risk, but also increased opportunity to really make a difference. And previous research has found that responses from children in grade 4 and above are as reliable and valid as responses from adults. The MDI was developed here at UBC by a research team led by Dr. Kim Schoenert-Reichel with considerable input from children, parents, teachers, and community groups, namely the United Way of the Lower Mainland. And many of the questions were assembled from surveys that were previously used and validated with children. So just really wanting to highlight that the MDI is able to provide valid and reliable data that can be used for decision making to improve the lives of children inside and outside of school. And we do have a number of research articles that support the validity of the MDI and are confident that students are able to accurately report on their experiences through the questionnaire. The MDI is used not at an individual level, but at the population level. So it tells us about groups, neighborhoods, or broader geographic regions. And it allows us to see those population trends in children's well-being. It's not used to evaluate individual teachers or schools. MDI asks about the whole child across multiple contexts, the school context, family, home contexts, about what's happening in neighborhoods and communities, and about how children are spending their after-school time. The questions on the MDI fall under 5 dimensions in this image here, and these areas are strongly linked to well-being. So that's just a brief overview, and before I hand off to Merritt to walk through the steps to administration, we just want to give you a heads up about MDI reports, which will be released in spring 2020. School reports will be released in April, and the school district community reports will be released in May. And Sally will talk a little bit more about what's in reports. And if you participated in previous years and you're curious about your reports, we encourage you to reach out to your principal or your school district administrator to ask about accessing that data. All school district and community level reports are publicly available on our website as well.
Thank you, Maddie. Hello, this is Merritt. I'm going to take you through the steps of MDI administration and some of the more detailed things to think about. But before I get going on that, I just want to, here we go, just want to talk a little bit about the importance of privacy and confidentiality with the MDI project. This project has been approved by the UBC Ethics Board. Just want to sort of stress that the privacy of children, families, and teachers is paramount during the study. All information that is collected is kept confidential and used for statistical purposes only, and all information is kept here at HELP, and personal identifiers are stripped from the data. Also just want to mention that parents, of course, have to be informed that participation is voluntary and consent is passive, and that no child or teacher is ever identified in our reporting. I just want to also, while we're talking about parents, the parent letters, I'm sure most of you know and you have sent the parent letters home. This is just a friendly reminder to make sure that they have gone home. They have to be, parents have to have had the letters for 4 weeks prior to administering the survey. This is really so that parents can have time to read the information letter, to know what the survey is about, and have time to withdraw their child should they wish to do so. The way parents can withdraw is either by returning a withdrawal slip to the classroom teacher, this is the last page of the parent letter, or they can email us directly to withdraw their child. So if you actually do see that a student has been withdrawn, then you will not be able to print out logins for them or to add them back into your class. And of course, students also have a choice whether they want to participate or not. Students may opt out at any time, even after they complete the survey. And there is an assent script that we ask that you read aloud at the very beginning of the survey that outlines this option to the students. And as well, students have a withdrawal button at the bottom of each page of the survey as they are going through it, so they can withdraw if they decide to do so. And since I'm on the topic of withdrawals, if you in your class list see a little red button right next to one of your students, that means that the parents have contacted us and we have already withdrawn the student. So that's just what it will look like for you. Also, I want to mention that if parents come to you with questions, or if you have questions and you're curious about some more detail about the MDI, we have a great parent frequently asked question page on our webpage where we list all the most common questions that we get. And so this is a great resource for everyone, really, but you can send your parents there if you don't know how to answer some of the questions. And of course, they can also contact us. One of the most common questions we get is actually, can I see the questions on the MDI? And the surveys are available on our website, and parents can read through the surveys ahead of time. We also get a question often that parents want to see their child's their answers to the survey, but of course the survey is confidential, so we have to say no, that is actually not possible. A new resource this year is that we have created something we call the MDI questions brief, which summarizes some of the question topics on the MDI, includes links to additional resources. And we recommend that you distribute this to parents now in January as a bit of a reminder of the upcoming MDI administration. This brief really serves two purposes. It gives parents more information about the MDI and the kinds of questions we ask, because we've heard from parents that they like to be better prepared for some of the questions that might come home after the students have completed the survey. So this really explains not just the questions, but also the rationale for the questions. And again, it's just a reminder that the MDI is happening in the school. You know that, of course, with letters going home before Christmas, it's easy to forget. There's so much happening, and parents just like to know what is going on. So last year, for example, we did, I want to tell you about a couple of our new MDI questions. We did receive feedback from educators and parents regarding concerns about our body image and weight questions on the MDI. And more specifically, they noted that some of the questions that asked students to report on their body image were outdated and did not accurately reflect recent science and practice with regard to the assessment of body image and weight for children during this age. And it also could make some students feel uncomfortable or self-conscious. So we have we've removed those questions this year, but we have added new questions on help-seeking behavior and social and emotional well-being, as well as questions on the mode of transportation to and from school and children's preference on how they would like to get to and from school. So we are very excited about to see what children tell us in these new questions. So another resource we have created this year is our survey administrator timeline and checklist. So this is really just a quick one-pager with reminders of what you need to do prior to administering the survey, starting with attending or listening to today's webinar. So thanks for being here. So early next week, we will start by sending you all an email with a link where you can set up your password so that you could log into the MDI. And there's a bit more prep in the days leading up to the survey administration day. And so that's what I'm going to take you through right now. The one thing we're asking you this year is that we would like you to actually tell your students about the MDI, that it is happening in your school and that this will take place so that they have some time to actually digest and think about it before they are read the assent script. Maybe a week prior would be great. So this is what we then ask you before the day of MDI administration. Inform your students about the MDI, and also we recommend that you review our materials before you administer. Now you can access all these documents either on a sidebar once you log into the e-MDI, or you can get it on our MDI admin website, which you can see the address right here, and I'm sure Kim will type it in and we can also share that with you later. So in terms of the resources, there is the survey administrator checklist I just showed you. The next one is the survey administration guide, which outlines the steps to MDI administration in much more detail than the one-pager, but this is really where this is where to go if you want to know how to do something. It's all explained there with screenshots, and it should be pretty self-explanatory. And of course, if you have any other questions on that, you can contact us. And then there is, last but most importantly, the instructional survey, which is used the day of survey, the day of MDI administration, and it is used to assist you teachers and principals in guiding students through the survey. Well, this is just, again, the MDI this is where all our resources are saved. Discover MDI.ca, MDI administration. So first, on Monday, we hope on Monday, we plan that this will happen early Monday, that we will send you all a password reset email. So look for it in your mailbox. If you do not receive an email looking like this, then please contact your school district representative or be in touch with us, and we will make sure that we will set you up properly. So what you do when you get this link is you click on it, and then you can create your own password, and then you log in to using your school district email address and your newly created password. This is what the web page looks like. You go to www.mdi.ubc.ca and you go to the teacher administrator login. Okay, so one of the first things you will see when you log in is another new feature this year. It's a pop-up reminder. This is really not to make any more work for anybody, but to serve as another reminder that parents must have received the parent letter and know about the MDI before you administer it in your school. So this pop-up window will appear once you log in, and it will ask you when you sent the parent letters home. So please add the date if you know it, then it won't pop up anymore. And now the other thing is, if you haven't actually sent the letters home to parents yet, there is still time. If the letters go home tomorrow, you can start survey administration after February 10th. But there has to be a 4-week window from when the letter goes home. If you don't know the date, and the system will not dismiss you, and you will still be able to log in to check your class list and all that, but the reminder will just keep popping up until you fill the date in when the letters went home from your school. We've really done this because last year we had a few incidences where due to the winter break, parents or some schools forgot to send the letters home, and then they ran out of time after the break for the survey to be completed within the survey window. So we just want to try and avoid that. So it is really recommended that before the day you administer, you log in, you check your class list, and you print your student passwords. So to check your class list, or to have a good review of your class list, once you've logged in, you will actually see a whole list of names. I only have one student in my class right now. But if a student is missing from this class list and has been in your class for 30 days or more, and the parents received the letter, you can add them on by clicking options in the top right-hand corner and add student. You have to have their details, such as their PENS, their education number, their birth date, their postal code, and then you should be able to add a student in. If you have any issues with that, or if it tells you that the student already exists in the system, we suggest you might want to contact us and we could help you out. But most importantly, the student must have been in your class for 30 days and have had a letter go home. If not, they should really not participate. Now, if a child has left the class or a parent has withdrawn from the study, you can also remove a child from the class list by also going into the options menu and edit. And there will be an option there to withdraw your student. And then and there will actually be a box that will confirm the withdrawal, as well as asking you where you can give a reason why that student is withdrawing. And as soon as the student is withdrawn, all their data will be gone, and you will not be able to add them back in. Under this button, you can also, okay, and I should also mention, if you really need more detailed instructions here, you can look in the administrator's guide. It will cover this as well. At the same page, when you're logged in to your class list, the next step actually is step number 2, where you go to number 2, unlock survey and print passwords, and you can print out the passwords that you can have ready then to distribute on the day of your survey administration. There's a print student login button at the very right-hand side, and the way this looks when you get there is you will then see a page like this, and you can just hit the print this page, and it will print out all the cards that you then have to cut into little cards that you can distribute to your individual students. You might also see that we have added a kids help phone number on our cards. For those of you who have done this before, this is really if kids do feel that they want help after filling out the survey, they could take that home with them and use the phone number. And we also ask that you collect these possibly after administration, unless of course a child decides to take it home. They won't actually be able to log in at home, because this is what I'm going to show you next, is how you can unlock and lock the survey. So on the day of survey administration, we recommend that you go and unlock the survey, which is back to the step on the left-hand side. Step number 2 is to unlock the survey. Once you unlock the survey, this is really to protect the security for student logins. Students can only access the survey when a teacher or principal has unlocked it. And once the survey is complete, you can, like I said, collect the logins and lock the survey. Also, the survey automatically locks after 4 hours. Now, if you do need more than that, or you will continue the next day, you can just unlock the survey as often as needed. I should also tell you that if you come into the classroom and you have all the students and nobody is able to log in, it's likely because you need to unlock the survey. So feel free to call us. We can also do it for you, but that's the phone call we get most of the time early in the morning. From this page, you can also preview the survey along with your students. If you, many teachers actually choose to project the survey during survey administration and can follow along and help their students that way. The survey works well on desktops in a computer lab or laptops, tablets in a classroom, including iPads. The best browsers are Firefox, Chrome, or Safari. We ask that you prepare your computer lab for test conditions so that there's space between students and they can't look over and see what other students are answering. We recommend that if you can, have a classroom set of headphones available or provide headphones to those students that may benefit from the read aloud function that is on the survey. There's actually a little button next to each question that will read the survey out to students. We also recommend that you have an alternate activity prepared for those students who are not participating. And if you can, maybe write the website address on the board for all to see, or if at all possible, have the computers already logged into www.mdi.ubc.ca. It might speed up the process a little bit. In general, we say it takes 1 class period for grade 7 students, 2 class periods for grade 4 students, but this will depend on the reading level of your students. So, and then you probably should take about 10 to 15 minutes. Often it takes that to get students logged in. It depends how prepared the lab is set up before they come in. We also recommend that you inform the school counselor that the survey is taking place in case there is anything that arises for a student and he or she wishes to speak further. So once you have all the students in your classroom, you distribute their student logins and direct them to this login page. So once you have all your students in the classroom, then use the instructional survey to guide your students through the survey. This is really identical to the online survey, except it contains an assent script for you to read aloud before you start. And the assent script describes what students will be doing and informs them that they can also choose not to participate, that they can skip questions, etc. So we ask that you read this assent script aloud so that students understand the purposes of the purpose of the survey, the confidentiality of their responses, and that their participation is voluntary. And after the assent script is read aloud, we ask that you also read the demographic questions out loud. This is really, many students find this section a little bit difficult, so it's really helpful if you can read it out loud and students can follow along. And then after that, most students can read the questions on their own and request assistance as needed. But of course, you know your students best, and if you are concerned about students' reading level, their level of English, we really suggest that you read all of the survey questions out loud if you can. And if possible, a second adult in the room can also be very, very helpful. Now, the instructional survey also contains tips and instructions for you as a survey administrator throughout. So we have also added a little cartoon this year to the regular assent script for students. This is really to make it very clear to students catch their attention a bit and that really make it clear that this survey is not a test, that students can choose not to answer any questions, and that this survey is voluntary and that their answers are confidential. And while administering the survey, we ask that you please remain neutral. And if, for example, a student asks for clarification, maybe reread the question back to them, and please do not provide your own interpretation to the student. Also, try not to look at students' responses and ensure that students do not look at their friends' responses. So at the very end of the survey, we have what we call the Help for Students page. And this has a bit of a new look this year for those of you who have done it in the past. We did hear from teachers and principals last year that this page could be confusing for students. So we've revised it, hopefully made it, provided a bit more information and made it a bit clearer for the students, as well as a bit more information for survey administrators. The reason for this page is really that the MDI asks students some rather personal questions, how they think and feel, what their lives inside and outside of school are like, and about their relationships with peers and adults, including questions about their experiences with victimization and bullying. And so because of this, it's critical to make sure that students know that they can speak to a caring adult at school if they are having problems. Hence, they can press the yes, I would like to talk to my teacher. And what happens then is an email will actually be sent directly to the classroom teacher and or principal at the school with the name of the student that requested help. And then we ask that you please follow your school's protocol for following up with those students. You do not need to let us know about the outcome of the follow-up. We actually don't see these student requests unless, of course, there's the email fails, and we will get a bounce back, and we will then follow up with you, of course. And we've heard from teachers and participating teachers and principals in the past that these requests for help are really an opportunity to hear from a student that they may not have been aware is having a problem. And so we've also, like I said, added a bit more information to the email that teachers and principals will receive, hopefully to create a bit more, give you a bit more context so that it is also not so confusing when you receive the email. It used to just be the student's name. So this is a little bit more information. And then students can log out and submit their survey, and you're done. The only other thing is we have an optional feedback form, of course. We love to hear from you. This is really how we improve our processes and resources for future years. So this link, I believe, is in the administration guide, and we will also send it out at the end of survey administration. And again, your feedback here is anonymous, and really we would love to hear if you have ideas for us. So that's it for the sort of detailed administration of the MDI. There is that little video that when you log in, there's about a 4-minute video, which is another quick recap of what you need to know. Of course, we're here to answer questions, and if you have any questions now, we can take them.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. This is my first webinar since coming back from leave, so I'm excited to dive into some of this material with you. What I'm going to do today, just for the next 15 or so minutes, is talk about some of the tools that we have developed to help teachers and principals specifically to work with MDI data with students and with the school community, as well as colleagues and in school planning, and talk through a little bit about some of the opportunities that the MDI data offers to do that, and then some of the ways that we've seen work in the past, as well as some of the tools we hope we've created that we hope are helping to support those processes. So I've got 6 different topics or kind of themes that I wanted to focus on today. So catalyzing for action, what the MDI can do. So first, we know that the MDI helps us understand students' perspectives about their lives inside and outside of school. And really the starting point for this is your school reports, which, as Maddie mentioned, you'll receive in April of this year. Those will go directly to principals of each participating school, and there'll be an individual report for each participating grade. So if you're doing both grade 4 and grade 7, there will be different reports for that. Now, those are generated through our online system. They are accessed through a secure portal, but there is a very easy way
to print and save as PDFs, so those are easily shareable. So we do encourage you to, teachers to connect with their principals in April, and for principals to share reports with teachers across grades. We will also be hosting a webinar in April around the time that the reports are coming out to sort of facilitate a little more understanding and support around using school level reporting for the MDI. So again, these reports, they're very comprehensive, and at the school level, look at, you'll have a good sense of how many students participated, and all of the data from the dimensions, each of the MDI dimensions, and all of the measures are included in these reports. And again, that's at the school level, whereas the school district, the aggregated school district report and community reports that have the neighborhood profiles, those are available later on in May. So today I want to focus more on the school level data and again, in the context of teachers and principals using these data. One of the things that the MDI is also valuable for is connecting to the BC curriculum to help with assessment of student learning. And as you know, the BC curriculum has a number of different competency areas, and the MDI was actually developed by Kim Schronert-Reichel, who also helped develop some of these competencies during that process. And you can see here where the alignment, there's alignment of the MDI with for one, the personal and social competencies in the curriculum. And again, the MDI does not offer data on individual children. It's about groups of children. But looking at MDI data does help reflect, the MDI data reflects some of the areas in the personal social competencies. So you can see the MDI measures, for example, in the top row, connectedness, self-esteem, personal meaning, academic self-concept, can be related back to positive personal and cultural identity. And then those different areas for personal awareness and responsibility and social responsibility. So an opportunity to gain insight on where students as a group of students or population of students sit in terms of these competencies. This has also been used as a tool, and we'll get into this in a little bit. The MDI can be used as a tool to actually help students do their own self-assessment of their growth, which is also an aspect of the competencies. So, and that's another resource that we are hoping to build is support to help students do that self-assessment in the future. Again, this is a new alignment that we've been exploring. So in the communication competency, there's a collaboration sub-competency, and that's working collaboratively, supporting group interactions, and determining common purposes are the areas that align with, not that the MDI measures these areas, but it measures skills that are prerequisites for actually meeting some of these sub-competencies. So for working collectively, children would want to be scoring higher on self-regulation, long-term perseverance and assertiveness, whereas supporting group interactions would be more about self-regulation, long-term, and pro-social behavior. We've also recently developed an alignment between the physical health and education competencies. So for grade 4, again, you can see some of the big ideas around personal choices and social and environmental factors influencing health and well-being. The MDI measures such things as frequency of good sleep, junk food, meals with adults, transportation to school. So again, it's not a direct assessment, but a reflection of some of the areas that we know that are aligned between the two. So that's grade 4. Again, moving down, we're looking at developing healthy relationships, helps us feel connected, supported, and valued. MDI measures connectedness to various adults across different environments, so school, home, and community, as well as with peers, so belonging and intimacy. And knowing what we enjoy doing and knowing about our opportunities to participate in those activities helped us develop a healthy lifestyle. So the MDI looks at children's wishes about what they wish to be doing after school and some of the barriers to participation in after-school activities, as well as an assessment
of their own general health. And so that's grade 4, and then grade 7 looks a little bit different. So again, we are continuing to sort of develop how the MDI aligns and some of the tools that might help seeing these two together, as well as a student self-assessment. But hopefully this is a helpful map of how that alignment looks right now. So we've got, I think it's number 3 and 4, spark discussions about the current state of the students in our school and communities, and ignite inquiry with staff and students. So a resource that we developed a couple of years ago is called Discover MDI that Marit has referenced a couple times in her discussion. It's a companion to your school and district reports. The MDI Field Guide walks you through the steps to start making sense of your MDI data, and ideally giving you the tools to start making change in your school, district, and community. A couple of specific areas of making change I wanted to direct you to, given your role in schools. So we have a section called Tools for Making Change. There are a couple tools I want to point you to. You'll also notice on the right-hand side is a Stories tab. I do encourage you to sort of to take a look at the Stories tab. There's lots of examples through webinars and videos that we will be adding to this year that will be about how schools have worked with data for various initiatives through planning, connecting with community, among them. In terms of schools, a great way to understand your results and move MDI data to action, sort of make sense of what you're seeing, is actually to bring the data back to students. Often we've heard that MDI data can be surprising, and the best way to kind of explore what students are really trying to tell us is to work with students with the data. So on Discover MDI, we do have ideas for lesson plans to explore the MDI data, specifically the assets, which are adult relationships, peer relationships, nutrition and sleep, and after-school activities with your students. So they're kind of lesson planning ideas with some questions and activities that can be done with both grade 4 and grade 7 students with some modifications. There's also a resource available to support doing focus groups with children, which is something that has been done by numerous schools across BC to actually dive into some really particular areas, such as high worries, a high percentage of children saying they have worries. That has been an area that focus groups have been done with children to kind of really dive into what's happening there. So those are two of the resources we currently have. For those looking to dive deeper into data with their school teams, we do have an in-depth workshop series. We have 2 workshop outlines and PowerPoint slide decks to assist you in the process. So the resource is called Making Change in Schools. And they are longer sort of planning workshops. You can do short modules from them or plan to do the entire set. But it's really to walk you through as a collaborative group exploring data and then developing ideas about which of these data are going to guide planning and goal setting. And then there's an action planning workbook to help move that forward into the next steps of planning. So we do have a Making Change in Schools version and a Making Change in Community that has some small modifications. They come with, as I mentioned, they come with facilitation slide decks for each and facilitation guides. So we've been trialing this out, these workshops out with various groups over the last few years and trying out train the trainer models. We do have a previous webinar that walks through some of the highlights of these workshops and how to facilitate them. So that's something we can also reshare likely when school reports come out. MDI data can also help inform school and district plans. As I mentioned, we do have some of these resources available on our stories page. It's something we are hoping to build this year. This is an example of from Port Alberni, so the Alberni School District, which looked as a district at MDI data, and each school then built a school goal related to one area that was sort of guided by one area of the MDI along with other data. So this the system goal at a district level was all students will develop and apply social and emotional learning strategies to become resilient, flourishing, self-aware individuals. And at the school level, that goal then became much more individual and unique, tailored to the school. So you can see here, there we go. The goal was to improve student physical, social, and emotional well-being through increased knowledge, reflection, and practice on the importance of sleep and healthy eating. And the evidence considered to actually build that goal was the MDI data along with the Childhood Experiences Questionnaire data, and that along with, you can see on the right-hand side, some additional resources and data, as well as ensuring that MDI is actually used to monitor that change over time. So that's one example from Alberni. There are a number of others as well in various areas. We do have a webinar video that's on the website that actually unpacks the process that Alberni went through a couple of years ago to actually develop these school plans using MDI and additional data, and that's the Greg Smith webinar that's under the stories section. MDI data also, I think at its core was really developed to help build a common language for students' social emotional well-being, for health and wellness in the middle years, and really build bridges and partnerships with community organizations, between community organizations and schools and school districts. In the past, we know that these different groups have used these data for various planning, policy planning, or program planning initiatives, funding applications, or as I mentioned, just sort of collaborative sessions diving into issues related to current concerns in the community, in the school. So there's lots of uses for the MDI data. Lots of groups have been using it. So we do encourage you to visit Discover MDI and do a little bit more exploring of that, and we are always available if you have additional questions or ideas that you're thinking of in using the data, and we will be following up with a number of webinars to explore additional opportunities.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sally.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone, for staying with us at the end of the school day and even later if anyone is out east. We just want to end off with our contact information. So if you have a burning question, if you're in the classroom and you really need to talk to someone, the best way to do that is to call Merit, the 604-827-5504 phone number, or this mdi@help.ubc.ca email. And we respond really quickly during data collection and are more than happy to assist you with anything you need. And if you don't have any questions, have a great evening. Thanks so much for joining us.